Report number 51821, submitted by witness on Tuesday, April 26, 2016. Family has multiple sightings and interactions in their backyard near Elgin. Year 2015. Season spring. Date 12/8/2014. State Texas. County Lee County. Nearest town Elgin, Texas. Nearest road Highway 295. Observed 12/6/2014 to 10/2015. Incident began with rocks being chunked at my daughter, myself, and my brother after returning from visiting my dad in the hospital. We stopped to report his condition to my brother. We were very loud, laughing and talking, and a rock chunked from out in the yard in the trees. At that time, no homes nearby, as we live rural. 2 weeks before, my dad was putting his trash in the can and happened to feel someone watching him, and he looked up to see in the moonlight, full moon, dead on straight away, about 20 feet from him, a tall 8 feet brownish figure looking at him. They stared at each other for a long moment, and my dad tossed his trash, looked up, and it was gone. My dad doesn't believe in Bigfoot, but my brother is disabled and sits up outside on the patio every night. He had heard whoops, stick fighting, growling, and saw figures at the fence line. I decided to try interacting with whatever it was, so I began wrapping sandwiches, cookies, veggies, meat, eggs, etc. Every day I made a lunch, which I wrapped in bread wrapper and placed in the plastic grocery bag and hung it in a tree branch near where we heard the noises. Every day the food was gone. Once it left me 5 potatoes from the neighbor's garden above us. I would leave a dozen raw eggs or boiled, and they tapped the ends of the eggs and sucked the middle. They did not eat celery, carrots, or spicy crackers, but loved tortillas, breads, cake, all meats, and peanut butter or nuts. I fed for almost a year and smelled them many, many times. We heard a sweet growl several times. Once my brother saw its backside walking to a tree. It chunked some rocks at me as I was at the far end of the pasture. Each toss the rock became closer. My brother said, "Come back before it hits you." I began walking back, and he pointed where it was beside a tree, and I saw the side of it, about 8 feet tall, grayish, brownish, like tree bark. I began calling it Trudy when feeding it. Sometimes it would let me know it was there, and if it was, all was totally silent, nothing moving. When coyotes would be howling nearby, it would let out a shrill scream, and the woods became silent. I sat many evenings beside Gift Tree, and it never hurt me. Never attempted to hurt me. Actually would give a low growl. Once I left a pink cup to see what it would do, and it would toss it in the ditch. I hung a tiny angel Christmas ornament, and they removed it and never found it. One evening, my husband drove up, and they tossed rocks at his truck. We mounted a game cam, but never had any pics except of myself feeding. Many pics of orbs. My brother said he thinks by voices and calls there was male, female, and young ones. I know for a fact they are harmless and are very caring. 2 new homes moved into our area, and they have now left us. I miss them and still go down into the pasture hoping they will throw a rock. 4/2016. Coming in from nearest town, approaching a bridge repair, so I slowed down, and it was 7:15 on a clear evening. I saw standing in a clearing a huge, dark, reddish-brown figure in the tree line. I was shocked to see it dead on in open daylight. I looked back at my lane and over the clearing, and it was gone. Its hair looked 5 inches long on the head to the neck area and 8 inches on the body. It was standing in tall grass, so couldn't see below the waist. After interacting and watching for a year, I noticed the hair color changes with the season. There are many ditches, reservoirs, acres of uninhabited woods, and many creek beds. We have gardens, wild berries, and wild plums, so I think they can stay hidden. I have pics of tracks. I have bags I saved. She left me to refill. I don't care what scientists say, I know they are real and very sweet. Nobody should hurt them, as I think they'd only hurt you if you tried to cause them harm. I would not trade my time spent with them for anything. Time and conditioning. Evenings before dark, all sorts of weather, the environment, creek beds, forests, and gullies. Follow-up investigation report by BFRO investigator Lance Willoughby. The witness is very competent and credible. She's a retired 28-year crime analyst and helps her elderly father and disabled brother at her father's home. We've talked several times, but her family recently allowed me to investigate the location. I sat down with all three, who each had several stories about how they interacted with a creature, possibly a few for almost a year. The best piece of their experience was her father, an older gentleman, who absolutely did not believe the creatures his 60-year-old kids were dealing with were real. That is, until he walked right up to one face to face one early evening. He took the trash out one afternoon, and standing barely 20 feet away from his trash bin was a creature standing over 8 feet tall in between a large tree and a worn-down classic car. After a few seconds, it walks away and he returns to his home. He walks into the house he built and nonchalantly tells his daughter and son, "One of those gorilla men are out back." They believe the primary creature is a female whom they named Trudy, based on its gentle voice and how it gestures toward the other creatures. Her brother encountered a larger, more dominant creature whom they think is the male father. Additionally, they think there are at least 4 creatures in the family unit. She fed and offered gifts from their backyard as they never felt threatened by any of the creatures. The creatures would toy with the family but were never aggressive. Many times, while sitting on their back porch, they would have small rocks tossed just short of them over several minutes. The two families interacted with each other as she continued to gift the creatures. Eventually, she stopped feeding them when she got new neighbors and thought the creatures could be in danger. It stopped, and while members of the family would occasionally see one of the creatures, it seemed like the creatures had just moved on from a continued presence near their property. When the witness interacted with the creatures, she'd be down in the woods feeding, and when they were near, she smelled them or heard them. Sometimes a soft, kind growl, and sometimes a rock tossed. There was always a scent of wet, soured horse, a stench. She left different items where some were accepted and others refused. They would like or not like the gifts as such. One was bread was always taken, as were nuts and peanut butter. 2 raw eggs at the base of the gift tree. They would tap the ends of the eggs and suck them dry and leave the shells. 3 boiled eggs were taken. 4 they loved the peanut butter sandwiches, ate the meat sandwiches, but would eat the peanut butter ones right there and leave both bags. 5 they liked types of nuts, tortillas, cornbread, biscuits, strawberries, apples, oranges, pears, dewberries, Ritz crackers, plain crackers, and cookies. 6 they ate all baked homemade breads, pastries, pies, cake, etc. 7 they would not eat any store-bought flavored crackers or flavored chips. They preferred them without flavors. 8 She fixed all sorts of cheeses, meats, raw and cooked, and they never left them behind. 9. She left cups of fruits and they'd eat them but left bananas after squishing in their hand as if not knowing what it was. 10. She started peeling the top about an inch down and they took them. 11. They'd tossed an orange unless it was peeled. 12. Apples were eaten unless they found a rotten one. If badly bruised, it would be tossed. 13. She left a tiny, shiny, and gold Christmas angel decoration in a tree. It was gone the next day. Her neighbors have a small ranch with a decent-sized garden. Many times the creatures would leave return gifts such as potatoes or tomatoes from that garden. I attempted to talk with the neighbors, but they were not home. The location is a rural area surrounded by all types of farms and some orchards. There are little swamps and gullies throughout the area and 2 rivers in parallel within 20 miles. Behind their home is a cross-section of the 2 gullies that feed into a swamp, maybe a half-mile south. There are tall trees and bushes throughout. She would hang the gift bags from a tree limb that hung over a gully. Since the area is all privately owned, I was only able to observe and listen overnight. I did walk along a creek bed and found no evidence, but the area definitely has all the resources for these creatures to thrive. I hung out near the swampy area but had no activity overnight. I did, however, run into 3 rattlesnakes in a 45-minute time frame before it got dark, also suggesting to me to stay out of the woods that night. The father sighting was 8 to 8.5 feet tall, dark brown hair about 2 to 3 inches long all over. No hair at the eyes and nose bridge. Dark brown eyes, no neck as if its head was stuck onto shoulders, very long arms hanging down long past the waist. The head was rounded and long from forehead up. Was standing still and stared at each other for several minutes, but no aggression. Very calm, friendly eyes. No outward seen breast, but presumed female. Seen with full moon straight on, and it didn't run and wasn't afraid of it. No sound, just suddenly gone without noise. Her sighting looked about 8.5 to 9 feet tall. It was hiding behind a huge oak tree, where its face was hidden but not its body. She only saw about 9 inches of its side. It had been chunking rocks for 30 minutes, playing with her. It was the color of oak bark, grayish, brownish like the trees. Head was hidden as it was peering from other side of the tree. Hairy all over its body on the side, very muscular with definition on the legs, even with hair. The hair looked 2 to 3 inches, but like a wiry, hairy teeter dog. No weight guessed, but she said it was huge. Not fat, just hefty and large all over in its bone structure. The side of the leg and shoulders looked like an 8-inch tree. About BFRO investigator Lance Willoughby. He's a retired military officer dedicated to conducting investigations based on evidence, science, and hopefully sound judgment. Certified inspector, auditor, security professional, and project manager with decades of experience in national intelligence, communications, computer systems, and security operations. Has investigated across Texas and Oklahoma over many years.